it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Wednesday, February 12th. All right, okay. In all transparency, tonight's podcast has been pre-recorded earlier in the day, prior to the Canada versus Sweden game. So if you're watching right now live and expecting an update, you're not going to get one. If you're watching and by the end of the show, I don't bring it up, it's because, once again, this show has been pre-recorded. Why? Well, for the most part, we pre-record a lot of shows on Wednesdays because Craig Button is our regular collaborator and Craig works a lot of Wednesday nights. But Craig is not our guest tonight, and Simo Snake Boisvert is. So before we get to Snake, so why am I pre-recording tonight? Because, once again, in all transparency, Agnello Cavallaro of Sick Media Agency and myself have been invited to watch the game tonight in a loge, and it's just one of those you need to be there moments. So with that said, tomorrow night, when I'll be back, I'll talk to you about my experience and my thoughts on the game that was between Canada and Sweden. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Slovakia Authentique, family-operated Greek restaurants, 7 locations, Lachine, Boisbriand, and Pierrefonds, to name a few. Fresh Quebec chicken, fresh Quebec pork, both hand-cut, marinated in-house. Their gyro is hand-stacked in-house, never frozen. No MSG in any of the recipes. Greek potatoes, not your Yaya's Greek potatoes. These have a unique lemon sauce, and they're absolutely amazing. Want to get in on some action for the Four Nations tourney? Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. Please play responsibly. Without further ado, let's bring him in. Simon Snake Boisvert, what's going on?
Doing fine, Tony. And you?
Doing extremely well. Team USA, they had a chance to speak with members of the media earlier today. And one guy that Lane Hutson has been compared to is Quinn Hughes, who was supposed to be there, but he's not. Another guy that he has also been compared to is Adam Fox, who is there. So I think a lot of people are wondering, what does Adam Fox think about Lane Hutson? He was asked just that earlier today. Listen in, Snake.
The talent and the skills just, through the roof for him. His ability to, create chances by himself and lug the puck up the ice. I think, obviously, myself being a smaller guy coming in, I think you almost have to really prove yourself defensively. I think, you can be good for a lot of stretches, but then once you're going through a rough patch, I think that's when the criticism starts to come. But it's a long season. I mean, even when you've played, whatever it is, 300 games, 700 games, you're going to have a little rough stretches. But the skill and the talent and to do what he's doing as a rookie is impressive.
It definitely is impressive. So if you take a look at Adam Fox's numbers this season, for example, he has 41 points in 56 games. Adam Fox has played over 400 games in the National Hockey League in the regular season. Almost 460 games if you add the playoffs. Lane Hutson has played 58 games total, 56 this season. He has 41 points, 3 points less than Adam Fox. Just three. Snake, Your thoughts as to why do you think Lane Hutson is on a little bit of a down period, or has been on the decline for maybe the last couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks or so?
Well, I think there's many obvious factors. First of all, the so-called rookie wall that most players hit in their rookie season. Mishkov hit the rookie wall at some point in Philadelphia. But I think in Hudson's case, it could be also that teams are adjusting a little bit to his style of play. And I've noticed a tendency that when he's on defense, very often they're always going to go on his side. And I think, thirdly, I would say that Lane played in the NCAA for a couple of years, and they only have a 40-game schedule approximately. And now he's past the 50-game mark with the Habs in the NHL. Smaller player, they tend to get tired more easily than bigger players, just what it is. So I think the break will be good for him, and maybe back from the break, he'll go back to what he was before February.
Lane Hutson turns 21 years of age on Friday, on Valentine's Day, as a matter of fact, which is pretty cool because so many people love him. Leo Carlson is 20 years old. He entered the National Hockey League. I want to bring up Leo Carlson. You're probably saying why, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the Anaheim Ducks did something with Leo Carlson that a lot of people expected the Montreal Canadiens to do with Lane Hutson. Yeah. And that is load management. And keep in mind here, Leo Carlson is about 6'3", 200 pounds. And the Anaheim Ducks last year played him 55 games because they knew that he had never played more than 44 games in a season in his career. And that came in the Swedish Hockey League. They know that rookies in their first year, they kind of hit the wall per se in the second half of the season. And they said, you know what? We're going to try and do our best not to burn him. We're going to try and do our best so that he doesn't hit the wall, so that when he does play, he's fresh, he's more effective. And I don't know how much it worked or it didn't work and how much it can pay off in the long run. But how surprised are you that they didn't go load management with Lane Hutson this season?
Well, I think load management is kind of a new thing in the NHL and even in sports. I mean, baseball has been doing it for years. Players are going to get a day off here and there because they play 162 games. But it really started in basketball a few years ago with veterans being put aside, for one game here and there, so that they be available, fully available in the playoffs with less risk of injury and fatigue and everything. So it's kind of new in the NHL. Am I surprised they do it? Not really. Not really. I mean, it was Anaheim's strategy to do it. Also in Sweden, there's not much contact. So, combined to the fact, like you said, that he only played 40-something games and he was 19 years old, they decided to bring him along slowly. Look, we don't know yet if this is going to work or not, because honestly, Carlson, who I like a lot, because I like his skills, honestly, but I'm kind of disappointed in his season. Is it because Anaheim plays a very tight game? They don't play a wide open game, so it's not conducive, to him doing, Carlson stuff. But I find that he's not even a tad dominant. And for a guy who was drafted second overall, I know he's young. I know it's just his second season, but you should see more flashes. The way you see with Celebrini. Celebrini is 18 years old. And by moments, he's dominant. And so I don't know if with Carlson, if it's going to work or not. I mean, I don't know if it's going to have a bearing on what his career is. But look, Hutson is getting his break now. Personally, if you ask me, I would have done load management with Hutson, maybe not 50-something games, but I would have sat him maybe here and there and maybe playing, I don't know, maybe 65, 70 games. Why not?
You talked about load management in the NBA, and look, if memory serves me well, that is the first league where it started, and it started about 13, 14, 15 years ago, where the San Antonio Spurs were resting some of their players. And over the last 5 or 6 seasons, you're seeing NBA teams do it with Kawhi Leonard, with Steph Curry, with LeBron James. And look, it could prove to be highly effective because most sports science people will tell you nowadays that they think that the athlete's body is being pushed way too much. The seasons are way too long. They play way too many minutes, or they play way too many games, and they believe that there's a big risk of injury. Having said that, once you start doing it, if you start to do it often, the league will pay the price. The TV audience, viewership, networks, all that. You know, Charles Barkley said a couple of months ago that he believes that load management could end up being like the league's worst enemy and a big problem. I'm not so sure I agree with that, but I understand his concerns.
Yeah, because imagine, okay, Western teams, they come to play Eastern Conference teams once a year. So you're like in September, you see that Connor McDavid is coming to the Bell Center on, I don't know, December 1st.
Yeah.
And you buy a ticket. Of course, he can be injured in the meantime.
I understand that, yeah.
But let's say there's load management, and because they played the Leafs the night before, okay, we're going to rest Connor in Montreal.
Yeah. Wow. And there's probably some fans somewhere in Europe who are diehard Canadiens fans who have always dreamt of going to watch a game in Montreal, and their favorite player is Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers. They buy those tickets, they pay big bucks, they come down, he's not there. Once again, like you said, every player can risk injury, and so they're not guaranteed to participate. But when you find out that the player is healthy, so if Edmonton's going to do that at their only visit in Montreal with Connor McDavid, and Colorado does it at the only visit in Montreal with Nathan McKinnon, and you go through so many other stars in the league, and other teams do the same thing.
But look, it happens in baseball. I mean, I remember as a kid, teenager, young adult, I would go see the Expos play, I don't know, the Cincinnati Reds, and let's say Pete Rose wasn't playing. And it's like, oh, darn, you get a ticket, you go see, you go for Pete, you want to go see Pete Rose, he's not playing. There's 2 more games where he's going to be playing, but you don't have time to go to these games. But baseball, we got used to this. We know it's 162 games, and players are going to get a rest, except, if you're Cal Ripken Jr. But in basketball, they started it. It's frustrating for the TV networks because they always have these must-see games. Let's say the Lakers are playing the Celtics or whatever, but usually they don't do load management in these games. But still, would it be a good option if here and there they could sit players and they would only play, I don't know, 70 games a year? Yeah, but I think it's going to be a very, very tough sell.
All right. Let's go back to Adam Fox talking about Lane Hutson. All right. Once again, Lane Hutson is 3 points behind Adam Fox this year. Fox is 44. Hutson is 41. Fox has put up seasons last year of 73 points, the year before that of 72, the year before that of 74. I think, do we agree that Lane Hutson will hit these numbers during his career? He'll have seasons in the 70s in regards to points. Do we agree?
I would think so, yeah.
Perfect. Quinn Hughes last year had an unbelievable year in terms of points. An unbelievable year, okay? Quinn Hughes last year had 92 points. I don't know if Lane Hutson's ever going to put up 92 points. That's an awfully high number, okay? I have said before that I believe at one point Lane Hutson's going to pick up a point per game. That's 82, but between 82 and 92, there's 10 points difference. Anyway, I digress. Both those players won the Norris Trophy so far in their career. Quinn Hughes, I think, won it because he was just so unbelievably creative and imaginative and picked up a ton of points last year. Mm-hmm. And I think Adam Fox won it 4 years ago because He was just a well-rounded defenseman that had pretty much everything at a very high level. We agree that Lane Hutson will pick up points. Do we agree? Do you believe that Lane Hutson will be able to get his game at a level that Quinn Hughes got it at last year when he won the Norris, or that Adam Fox got it at 4 years ago when he won the Norris? Do you see that happening? And if not, why?
I don't think so. First of all, it's pretty hard to get to that level. And second of all, I think he's, and I know the Norris is mostly about points, and I know Quinn Hughes is not necessarily a superb defensive player in his own zone. I know that. But I think you have to consider it. And Lane Hutson, very often when he's on the ice and the other team is attacking, he's a liability. Will he improve? I think he has the willingness to work hard, but he has the shape. He's built the way he's built. You really think that at some point he's going to become like a strong man and he's going to be able to take out the guys from in front of the net?
Please allow me to interrupt if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm not so sure he's a liability when he's back.
Sometimes.
I think he gets himself in trouble when he's already pinching and there's a counter going the other way. He's a defenseman that takes chances in the offensive zone. He's a defenseman who pinches a lot. He's a defenseman that sometimes might even leave the zone before the puck is out of it. But when opposing players are coming at him, I'm not so sure he's a liability. I think his reads are good. I think obviously he gives up size and strength almost every time. Yes. But he uses his stick pretty good. He's got a good sense of anticipation. I don't know about the liability.
That I agree with you. But when the and look at the recent weeks. You can look at the whole season, but look at the recent games. I think it's when the other team is like organized in the Hab zone that it becomes problematic for him when he has to defend in front of the net. So I think that with him, I still think that you have to shelter him because he's a small defenseman. He's a small offensive defenseman. Most of these guys who have reached the NHL are being sheltered unless they are absolutely exceptional. And even then, Quinn Hughes is, should be sheltered a little bit more. It's just that he's just exceptional. Vancouver doesn't have a great defense core and the time that he's been there. So he's been playing, 25, 30 minutes. But I don't think they should do this with Hutson. Can't Hutson be seen simply as a top four guy who's very creative, who's going to get lots of points, who's going to be an anchor man on the power play, and not ask him to be necessarily the Norris Trophy winner? No?
Yeah. I can't wait to see him in the playoffs because Quinn Hughes had a difficult playoff last year.
Very. That
doesn't mean that Quinn Hughes' playoff is going to be difficult, either this year or next year, the next time he makes the playoffs. But for sure, a lot of eyes are going to be on Quinn Hughes when he's going to make the playoffs again because, once again, he had a difficult playoff last year.
But in 2020, it was good.
In the playoffs, the going will get tough. Guys will jam the net. They'll cram the net. They'll use their stick. They'll cross-check you in the face, in the teeth, whatever, in the back. And plays that are going to be called during the regular season, more often than not, they're not called in the playoffs. Case in point, you see a lot of rugged defensemen, on the other hand, some of which are average in the regular season, are better than average in the playoffs because they can get away with a lot of mistakes. Like, for example,
Ben Sherratt.
Ben Sherratt and Joel Edmondson were good for the Canadians in the regular season, but when they had that run in 2021, they were much better because they were cross-checking guys right in front of the referee's eyes, in front of the net. Boom, 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 boom. And no penalties were being called. They were being able, so they were, it's probably stuff that they wouldn't do in the regular season, or if they would get called for it. So I can't wait to see him in the playoffs. It should be very, very interesting. By the way, I'm very high on his brother. Obviously so. On Cole Hutson, too. I loved them at the World Junior Championships. And I saw him during the Beanpot. It's fantastic.
Well, remember I told you a couple of times on the show that if I had to choose between Cole and Lane, I would take Cole. I said that last year.
He's fantastic.
Yeah. I see a more rounded guy. He doesn't have like the skill level that Lane has. But I think overall, he's a more rounded defenseman. He's a little bit stronger. So I do think that as an overall defenseman, maybe not the points, but as an overall defenseman, I think Cole could be better than Lane.
I understand your point, but I could counter it by saying I don't know who's going to have the better career, and I think they're both fantastic. I understand your point, but I can counter what you just said by saying I can always find a guy who can play solid defense, big, strong, solid, smart, whatever. I'll take the guy with the higher skill level.
Yeah, but Cole is very skilled.
He's very skilled. Yes. Yeah, he's very skilled.
Yeah.
Yes,
we're not comparing Lane Hutson to Ben Chirot.
No, I understand that. But Lane does have the higher skill level. He's got more. Lane is more unpredictable. Lane has told us that the way he tries to play hockey is to hold on to the puck and to attract opposing players to him and be able to create some confusion so that players end up leaving their position, and it ends up opening up space and room for his teammates, which ultimately he tries to find to put them in a scoring position and create a scoring chance.
Which is pretty smart.
Which is unbelievably smart. It goes to show me that while everyone is playing chess, he's playing checkers. Or vice versa, depending on which way you want to put it. But that's a skill. That's a real big skill and that's an art.
But let me ask you a question, Tony.
Yeah.
About Lane Hutson, because you like him a lot. And
I'm the president of the fan club.
Yeah, and he plays in Montreal, so obviously we see him more than we see other teams. But in his prime, because obviously he's not in his prime yet. In his prime, if you had to rank defensemen from 1 to how many regular defensemen are there in the NHL? About 200, let's say. If you had to rank him in his prime, and you do it objectively, you look at the points, you look at the offense he generates, you look at how he plays defense, and you don't see him with Habs rose-colored glasses. Where do you think he will rank out of 200 defensemen in his prime in the NHL?
You want me to talk?
What's your guess? There will be new guys that are going to be in, guys that will fade out, retire. But overall, where do you see him?
So I don't make you go crazy, and I talk conservative, top 50. Yeah.
Oh,
because top 50 would be top 50. Well, look, this is the way I put it, okay? 32 teams, 2 defensemen per team, that's 64.
Yeah.
So I could tell you top 60, top 64. You understand what I'm saying? I see him being a top 2 guy on his team, out of top 2 guys for every team. But I think he's better than, because some seconds are a compliment to the first, and they're not equally as good as the first.
Yeah, like Makar and Taves, let's say, in Colorado.
So I'll put him as a 1.5. Does that make sense to you? Where for some teams he won't be there first, but I think he's better than a second. He's top 50 for sure. That's what I think.
Okay, well, that's reasonable. I thought you were going to say top 5 or top 10.
No. So I'm going to say this, because I understand the angle that you're looking at it at.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the angle from your lens, I say top 50. From my lens, he's going to be in the discussion with 5 or 6 other defensemen for several years for the Norris Trophy.
Okay,
that's what I think is going to happen.
That's not top 50, Tony. That's top 10.
That's your lens was top 50. My lens is top 10.
Okay, so you say top 10, basically.
So he's a Rookie of the Year candidate this year, correct?
Yeah, he's going to be one of the top 3 guys. Yeah.
He's going to be one of the top 3.
Yeah.
He's got 3 points less than a Fox.
Mm-hmm.
He's what, I don't know, top 10 point getters of defensemen of the National Hockey League, right? I don't have it in front of me. I should have brought it up, but he's been in that discussion all season.
Yeah.
In his prime, we're talking 6 years away.
Yeah, about, 5, 6, yeah. And the Habs hopefully will be better at the time. So
he's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get smarter. He's going to have more reps. The Canadians are going to have a better power play. The Canadians are going to have a better team. I think he's going to
see him in the Quinn Hughes territory, let's say.
I don't know if he's going to pick up 92 points, but I think
No,
he's
but
going
92 points, Hughes only did it once. So let's just look at the average.
I think Lane Hutson is going to pick up 70 to 80 points multiple times.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Multiple times.
But the overall game.
This is the way I look at it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to like run away from your question.
Mm-hmm.
I know what he doesn't do all that well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't focus on it.
Okay.
I'm so in love with what he does great.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Like
I do.
what he doesn't do well, he can learn. There's some things that he probably will never be able to do them great because that his size might let him down a little bit in that regard.
Yeah.
But I don't focus on what he can't do.
Okay.
I focus on what he can do. The things that we just talked about, what he can do. His vision, his IQ, his anticipation, his imagination, his drawing opposing players to him, his passing of the puck ability, his hockey IQ. Who can do that? How many defensemen in the National Hockey League can do that?
I see what you mean. I see where you're going because I understand because
you're gonna tell me Tony is not going to be an all-rounder. I understand.
Yeah,
he's going to have holes.
No, I get now. I get what you're saying because it's happened to me a few times that I really liked a junior player, and that junior player had a major flaw, according to reports, scouts, whatever. And if I really, really, really liked the player, and someone told me I can't skate, I would say, who cares? He does everything else so great. Sometimes it just so happened that the player in question became very, very good, and the whatever I brushed away, I was right, brushing it away. And sometimes someone told me about, I remember Tyson Jost that I really liked.
Yeah.
And someone told me, not sure about the pace and the foot speed. And I remember at the time I said, I don't care. Well, Tyson Jost is a fourth liner, borderline, he's a minor leaguer, borderline fourth liner. So I think it depends. So I understand what you're saying now. You focus on what he does well. I do get it. And maybe that's what we should do when this a player's skills are exceptional.
Yeah.
And we should be a little bit more lenient about the things he can do. I think overall what you have to look at is he a plus player? What I mean by plus, I don't mean pluses and minuses. That's a stat that doesn't.
Does he have more pros than cons is what you're saying?
Yeah, pros and cons. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
Back in the day when I was a teenager and going to high school, and obviously the Oilers of the 80s were doing their thing, and the Islanders before them.
Yeah.
Paul Coffey's name used to come up a lot.
Oh, man.
All right.
One of my favorite players of all time.
Me too. Now, you ready for this?
Yeah.
When people used to start talking about Paul Coffey and start talking about the things that he didn't do well, it used to drive me crazy.
Me too.
Right.
You remember Rod Langley won 2 Norris trophies with like 30 points? I was going nuts because Paul Coffey had 100 points.
Okay, so Paul Coffey had over 100 points. You know how many times? 5.
5, yeah.
And he finished with points in the 90s at least 2, maybe 3 times. Okay?
Yeah. Different era, but still, yeah.
I never watched Bobby Orr play live. Paul Coffey was the greatest offensive defenseman I've ever seen in my life. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, it's fair.
Yes, because and he played with Gretzky, and he played with Messier, and he played with Curry, and he played with Anderson. I get it. He still was.
Because to me, he's number 2 because I'm older than you. I saw Bobby Orr. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay? So he's the greatest offensive defenseman I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
Isn't that enough? Well, yeah, but you know what? He's a defensive liability. He's this, he's that, he's this.
Oh, I
he's
know.
that,
I
he's
was
this, he's
going
that.
nuts, Tony.
I don't want to hear it. And by the way, Paul Coffey in Canadian hockey history, and it's fitting that we talk about this because Team Canada is playing tonight in Montreal versus Sweden. And at the time that people are watching this, the game's almost over or probably already over. And we were pre-recording this, so I'll be back tomorrow because I'm going to the game tonight in the Loge with Agnello Cavallaro, and I'll be back tomorrow to talk about it. Paul Coffey made one of the greatest defensive plays in Canadian hockey history. You remember?
Was it the Canada Cup or something?
It was Canada Cup. It was a 2-on-1, and he broke it up, and then he advanced with the puck, made his way into the offensive zone, and ended up taking a shot, which was deflected by Mike Bossy, which I think ended up being the game-winning goal. He made one of the greatest plays in Canadian defensive plays in Canadian hockey history, and it just anytime anyone talks bad about Paul Coffey, it just drives me absolutely crazy. Anyway, so let's move on. Speaking of Canadians prospects, and we're talking a lot of Habs here today because it is a Habs podcast. We're going to talk about another Montreal Canadiens prospect in just a minute. Not before I talk to you, of course, about our sponsors. And I want to thank them all for their partnership in this beautiful venture. Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also, Bittt, Tibi, right behind me, they launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing thirst quenching beer, perfect for chilly winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 to 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. And get ready for the spring break power weeks at Playground. The cards are hot. The vibes are chill at Playground from February 7th to March 9 with 12 exciting events and a cool $400,000 in guarantees. So get ready to stack your chips and soak up all the action. This break is no bluff. Visit playground.ca for details. All right. It's going to be an abbreviated version of the Sick Podcast. It's already gone on for about 30 minutes or so. A couple more minutes on Scott Wheeler of the Athletics list of best drafted goalies.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Fowler is number 2, right behind Askarov. Your thoughts?
I totally agree. I have the same 1-2 punch as he does.
What did you think of his performance in the Beanpot Championship? Ultimately, his team lost very unfortunately 4-1 to Boston University, his Boston College team. He did make, I think, 41 saves in the loss, but the Boston University goalie stud in his head too. Let's be honest. But what did you think of his performance?
It's just one game. I think it was good because he was challenged. He's not always challenged because Boston College has a very strong team and they don't always play Boston University. I think he could have been better, but it's just one game. I'm going to see him in about 10 days for 2 games in Vermont. Yeah, live in Vermont. So it's going to be a good opportunity to see how we, the whole demeanor in person. I like seeing a goalie's demeanor and in person. And so, yeah, I do agree. He's number 2. Now he's Askarov. I like, but I still have issues about his glove work. When he was a junior player, one thing that prevented him probably from being chosen in the top 5, not only because teams don't value goalie as much as they used to, but what prevented him from being taken in the top 5 was his glove work, where very often, first of all, he catches right-handed.
Yes.
Which is not very common with goalies. He catches right-handed.
It's not. And when they do, they usually have a weakness there.
Exactly. And usually what happens very often, the puck would pass above the glove. And still in the NHL now, he had a couple of stints with the Sharks. I watch most of their games. And I'm like, okay, I see this problem again. So I don't know. I still have him number 1. I think he's going to be playing behind a very strong team in a few years. But Fowler, number 2, yes, I do agree. Will he end up being number 2? We all know that, predicting goalies like it's voodoo. But he's really on the right track to become the Habs' number 1 goalie in a few years. I do hope that he plays in Laval next year, because don't forget, he's already playing his 20-year-old season. He's going to be 21 next year. He needs to be in Laval. And he needs to play at least, a solid 35, 40 games in Laval, I would say.
Yeah. Speaking of Laval, Luke Tuck, by the way, will be out for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
And it was a bad day for the Rocket, where they announced a couple of injuries. Also, defenseman Gustav Lindstrom and forward Vincent Arsenault will also be out for several weeks. So 3 key injuries to the Rocket, because those are one's a good defenseman, and the other 2 are big time energy players, and guys that are real tough to play against. So that's going to hurt.
Yeah, I think what happens with the Rocket, I always have the same. I've always had the same opinion about AHL teams. Okay, AHL teams. I don't really care about an AHL team that's loaded with veteran players and they win the Calder Cup. Honestly, like the Hershey Bears often do.
Yeah.
They load up with veterans. I don't really care.
And
I don't really care if the Rocket loses or wins a game. Honestly, but if they win, it means that they're going to play longer, in the sense that they're going to be in the playoffs. They might win a round or 2 or 3. And the opportunity is, it gives an opportunity to young players to extend their season. You take a guy like David Ronbacher, for instance. I don't know if he's going to play with the Habs this season, but at least he's going to have an opportunity with Laval, maybe to play into May. And the more games he gets under his belt, the better it is. So that's why it's good that Laval is winning. But I think the focus has to be on younger players, how they develop. And yeah, the more they play, the better it is. Now, the question is, are they going to return? Are they going to, who is going to be on the Laval roster? I don't think there's any players from the Montreal Canadiens right now that are going to be sent to Laval. Hudson is not going to be sent to Laval, but are they going to send back Dobesh? Maybe. There's a good chance. He's eligible.
Yeah.
And are they going to get Runbacker in? Michael Hage, will he sign? I doubt it, but there's always a possibility for him to play in the AHL playoffs. And, you have the usual suspects that are developing, Joshua Roy and Tuck, like you say, is going to be back. And Philippe Méchard, I don't believe in him, but, he's another young player on the team. So I think it should be an interesting spring for Laval, because it's been a while now since they made the playoffs.
All right. Okay. Once again, it's pre-recorded. It's before the Canada versus Sweden game. And so we're going to have a lot on that tomorrow. Do you have a tournament winner? I spoke with you earlier today on BPM Sports. You're not at your most excited for this tourney.
No, because I'm more of a league guy, NHL guy, and so these tournaments don't get me excited. Except, let's say you're going to have the Canada USA game, like in 2010, the gold medal game. Then I get very, very interested. But that kind of tournament, look, it's an upgrade over the All-Star game, which is just a show for kids.
Of course it is.
Yeah. And I think, like you said this morning, there will be intensity. There's 80 or 90 of the top players in the NHL. That's very good. But, there's no Russian team. And it's a tournament that doesn't have any tradition. It's not like the Canada Cup in the old days, that went through the 70s and 80s. Now it's the Four Nations tournament. Look, if it does well, if it's exciting, they might bring it back in a couple of years, and maybe eventually the Four Nations tournament will become a staple, in the NHL schedule.
For now, it's a poor man's tournament, but
yeah, it's a wait and see. For me, it's a wait and see thing. I mean, what I see Canada playing the US in the final game. Now, who's going to win? I don't know, because Canada still has probably the three best players in the tournament. With McDavid, McKinnon, and McCarr. Yeah. And I think in a round robin format, those two will elevate themselves above Sweden and Finland, which are not deep enough. But the gold medal game or whatever you want to call it, I don't know who's going to win.
It's going to be Binnington in goal for Canada.
Yeah.
Gustafsson in goal for Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about Dryden and Tretiak here, are we?
No, we're talking about the Blues against the Wild.
We're not talking about Patrick Roy versus Dominic Hasek either, are we?
No, but any NHL goalie at some point can have the game of his life. So you're right. Don't know. But in a best of 7 series, I think there would be a lot of goals scored in a best of 7 series. Now, I don't know what the scores are going to be for this type of tournament. Is it going to be 4-2 games or is it going to be 8-6 games?
I think it's going to be 4-2 games.
Now, you think it's going to be tighter than
So watch that. I said that tomorrow we're going to talk about an 8-6 game. All right, okay.
We'll see.
The game is probably over by now. And once again, I'm going to the game with Agnello Cavallaro. That's why I pre-recorded. I'll be back tomorrow. And tomorrow, I'll give you my thoughts on Team Canada. And, of course, as always, we'll always be talking Habs here because this is a Montreal Canadiens podcast. It is the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. Thank you, Snake.
Hey, have a good game, Tony.
There you have it. Simon de Snake Boisvert from the podcast Processus en français with Mathias Brunet, Commission Athlétique. Special thanks to Shane Gaumont. Leave me a 5-star review if you like the podcast. It's our way of feeling the love for Shane and Master Control. I'm Marinaro. I don't know the score, but I hope Canada won. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.